teach God's truth. It's the common, but for the modernists, it's the common mind fixing the best formulae for the collective consciousness that it follows. That's another complicated one. The collective consciousness, that's to say, what a number of Frankensteins together feel. And the magisterium is the supposed authority of the church that must, to fix, for instance, to fix dogmas, it's got to follow and come underneath what the Frankensteins are feeling. Therefore, it's the common mind finding the formula best to express, correspond to the collective consciousness which the magisterium follows. So instead of the church authority teaching the people and telling the people what to believe in order to get to heaven, it's the church authority is finding out from the people what they want to be told and what they want to be told to believe in, so that they will then believe in it. And finally, all public pomp and splendour of the church triumphant must be done away with, because the beautiful vestments, the beautiful altar, the beautiful decoration of the church, it's all got to be done away with, covered in whitewash, because all of that glory is not democratic. The glory of God is above man. Those lovely churches inspire men and lift men towards the objective true God. That's a no-no. Nobody is above us. We men are God. Therefore the ceilings of the church is going to come right down. The architecture is going to be very poor and bare. It's not going to show anything at all superior to modern man. The art will be ugly instead of beautiful. Because we want ourselves to be reflected. We are ugly. We don't want the beauty of God. We want the ugliness of ourselves, which is where you get the modern art from, and so on and so on. So the beautiful vestments will be done away with, the beautiful chalices, the beautiful everything, just done away with. And they have chalices in pewter, vestments in sackcloth, ugly designs on the vestments. That's all part of modernism. Finally, we get the development. The development, there are two principles, a principle of evolution and a principle of dialectic. Both are interesting. 25. In a living religion, everything must move or die. Okay, let me ask you this question. Is God living? Yes or no?
Yes.
Does he move? Does he change in any way? No. Then do you have to change in order to be living? No. But for the modernists, you have to change. See, they've got no idea of God. For them, they just go by things on earth. Here on earth, it's true that for a thing to live, it must move. But that's not God, and it's not God's church. God's church does not need to move in order to live any more than God does. But for these monkeys who've got no God, no real God, it's got to live in order to. It's got to move in order to be living. Therefore, it must evolve. Faith progresses by the religious sense of perfusing, soaking into the consciousness of each age. Faith must progress. Faith must move in order to be a living faith. Faith must soak into the mentality of the age, which is what it's got to correspond to, and as that mentality of the age moves, so faith must move with it. Therefore the dogmas are going to have to change all the time. Father?
Then how you explain the dogma of the assumption, immaculate conception, that was proclaimed before?
The Immaculate Conception, it's like it's a dogma. It's a reality. The reality took place in the womb of St. Anne at the moment that the Blessed Virgin Mary was conceived. It's a historic reality, completely secret, which St. Anne had no idea of herself. But that's the reality, which is number one. Number two is the truth. The truth means a mind believing in the Immaculate Conception, and by believing in the reality, corresponding to the reality, and therefore the truth is in the mind. Is that number two? Then the church comes along and defines. The church adds nothing to the truth or the reality when it defines. It waits until 1854 to define this truth, the truth of this reality. That's number 3, the definition. What follows on the definition is not an additional truth. What number 4, what the definition number 3 creates is an additional certainty. So you've got reality, truth, definition, certainty. The definition does not change or add to the truth. All that it does is to add to the certainty.
But why it would take so many years to proclaim it as a dogma?
There are still dogmas that could be proclaimed. It was very suitable in the middle of the 19th century when the liberals were denying original sin. So the definition of the Immaculate Conception was a tremendous statement of the reality of original sin. Because without original sin, the Immaculate Conception has no sense. The Immaculate Conception was precisely the blocking of original sin. And it's a terrible thing when men stop believing in original sin. When they stop believing in original sin, they let the children do anything they like because the children aren't little monkeys. They're only little angels. Can you imagine any more stupid? Of course, little children are little angels by moments, but by other moments they are real little monkeys. And you ought to spank them when they're monkeys and give them a sweet when they're little angels. You need to shape them when they grow, and you've got to shape them straight to stop them growing in line with original sin. To deny original sin is to wreck education, for instance. And in the middle of the 19th century, the stupid modern world was denying original sin. So the Immaculate Conception was very apposite for that purpose. It also defended the honour of woman, which again was becoming very necessary in the modern world. The Muslims despise woman. The Catholic Church has always, because of the Blessed Virgin Mary, with the Blessed Virgin Mary, it's impossible to despise woman. If you believe in that Jesus came into this life through his mother, how can you despise woman? So the Catholic Church defends woman, but in the 19th century, an extra defence was needed, let's say. Thank you very much. In the 19th century, an extra defence because woman was being especially attacked. So the definition was very suitable for the times. Similarly, the definition of the Assumption of the Blessed Virgin in the middle of the 20th century. Again, disbelief in heaven, disbelief in God, disbelief in anybody going up to heaven. It was a stake driven through the heart of the 20th century. It should have helped the people to stay with the true church. 10 years later, they were on their way to Vatican II. Worship must be fitted to the people, and the church must adapt to the times. So that's the new Mass. There you've got the principles already for the new Mass. And finally, a dialectic. This is, again, this is very subtle, and it's diabolically subtle. Evolution needs a conservatism to stay attached to the primitive source of life. What does that mean? That means that the gardener must not pull the hose away from the tap, because then there's going to be no water in the hose. The hose has got to stay attached to the tap for the water to come through the hose. He may take the hose all over the garden, but it's got to stay attached to the tap. So the modernists are going to adapt to the times, but they do need, at the same time, an attachment to the past. Therefore, the modernist church needs St. Pius X, the Society of St. Pius X. Society of Pius X, come and join us. You've got so much to give us. You've got so much to help us. You remind us of our past, and you're like a sort of anchor. And we need you. Come into the modernist church. Sweet Society of St. Pius X. Heard that one? Because we need you to be an example of what the church of the past of the church was. And so we modernists who are going to change everything, we do need somebody to kind of anchor things in the past. Therefore, we need some people from the past. And we need them to come into our modern church. and you get a dialectic between the past and the present. That's the idea. Then wait for it. Therefore, evolution requires tradition, represented and guarded by the religious authority. So the modernists here are saying, we need people above us to condemn us. We need people above us, we need church authority to say that we are breaking everything in the church and we're going to smash up the church. We need them. What's the effect of that? That means that when the religious authority, sure enough, Pope Pius X excommunicated the modernists, make my day, make our day, go on, hit. See, then the religious authority is paralyzed. If they do nothing, modernism will advance. And if they do something, the modernists will say, you are what we need, you're doing what we need. By you putting up this fight from the past, you're keeping the hose attached to the tap. But we're still going to go all over the garden with the hose. Because you need us to smash the church to pieces, and we need you to keep a little bit of it together. The authority can't win. They box the authority into a corner. They are pretending that whatever church authority does, it's not going to touch them. The modernists, whatever the church authority does, it can come out with all the most severe punishments. The modernists are going to applaud. We need you to do that. You're doing what you need to do. Popey, please smash us. Make our day. Go on. That's what we need. Actually, when the Pope came out, a proper Pope came out with proper authority and smashed them, they had to go underground. They had to nevertheless go underground. They were not able to say, oh, the silly old Pope is just doing what we all expect him to do. The Pope still had power. When you use the power of the church for the purposes of the church, in accordance with the truth of the church, oh my, you've got a heavy stick, you've got a big stick. But if you start using church authority to enforce, to destroy the church, the authority is completely discredited. When the bishops teach the truth, they gain prestige and credit hand over fist. When the bishops start talking nonsense, they lose all credit with the people. And that's how it should be, and that's how it always will be. Today's bishops, most of today's bishops in the modern church are despised, they're scorned. They're nothing like the figures that they used to be. They used to be feared by the politicians. The politicians used to be afraid of the bishops and of their reactions. And they wanted to try, by one means or other, to control the bishops. As long as the bishops did serve Jesus Christ and didn't get into politics, they controlled politics without even trying. Because the politicians had to pay heed the bishops. As long as the bishops did their job. But when the bishops start dancing to their own tune, the politicians walk all over them. But when the salt loses its savour, it only fits, says our Lord, to be thrown out and trampled upon. Well, we've reached the end, and then the last, the condemnations. Pius IX. Therefore, the 27b, the church progresses by a constant battling of inevitably recalcitrant authority. The authorities are bound to condemn us. You needn't pay any attention to them. They're doing their thing, but you don't have to pay any attention to them. That's normal and natural. They're just doing their thing. But we need them to do their thing. So by that way, they're crippling the church's reaction. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I should have it. Okay. Thank you. So we've reached the end of the theologian. Any questions, briefly? We started late. It's 7 minutes past 8. We'll overrun a little if there are a few questions, and then we'll. And then the rest you can look at for yourselves if you like. You have the very simple, the very condensed summary with the divisions, and you should be able to make sense of the rest of it. But it is a difficult encyclical. But you surely had the main ideas. Yes.
Wanted explanation on the church and the state.
I have the same question actually.
Church and state.
Actually, could I just elaborate? In a place like India,
Yes.
you couldn't have a union of church and state because the
True.
majority are not Catholic.
True.
So what does one do there?
You have to strive for or towards the union of church and state. You have to do your, firstly, when did you last go to confession? That was the question I asked last night. Convert yourself. Secondly, convert fellow Indians. Thirdly, convert all fellow Indians. And then fourthly, you will get the union of church and Catholic state, of the union of the Catholic Church and state in India. So that's the direction he was working. When St. Peter was Pope, it was obviously impossible to convert the Roman Empire overnight. But he strove for the principle. In principle, Jesus Christ must be king of every state. Here in Goa, you've got a statue, apparently I've been told, a statue of Christ the King on almost every church. Because the Portuguese understood that Christ must be king. And that was the glory of Goa, and that's why Goa was the wonderful place it used to be. Now it's got religious liberty, which is the opposite of Christ the King. It means any religion is good, any religion goes. Therefore, what you must do is strive, like St. Peter strove. You teach the principle. It can't yet be put into practice. But all of us need to become Catholics, real Catholics, in such a way that eventually, in Rome, it took 300 years until the Edict of Milan in 313, when Constantine legitimated the Catholic religion. And then a few years later, the emperor, I think it was Theodosius, made the Catholic religion legitimate and all the others were banned. So it was an exact reversal. If previously Rome approved of all religions and stomped upon the Catholic religion, they threw them to the lions. 300 years later, or 300, 400 years later, it was the Catholics that were the proper religion, and all the others, I don't know if they were thrown to the lions, but the other religions were forbidden. And that's what you have to work for. It takes martyrs to do it. So offer yourself to Almighty God as a martyr, offer to go down the throat of a lion, and if God takes you up on your offer, you will do a marvellous good for the whole of India. When people see Catholics dying for their faith again, which they haven't seen for some time, actually it's going on in Syria. The Muslims are once again killing Christians, and the Christians are standing their ground, and they're martyrs. They're going to heaven as martyrs. That's what the world needs. The modern world is so false. The journalists are such liars, and the politicians, and the churchmen, that only blood can tell people again where the truth is. If enough Catholics die for their faith once more, again the church has a chance of winning over the state. But that's what it will take for the reunion of church and state. Is that an answer to your question?
No, my question is a bit different. Now, when I speak about Christ the King statues all over,
Yes.
the GP government is all out to destroy all the statues along with the Bishop of Goa. They want to destroy.
Of course.
One. And number two, the canon law and the civil law.
Yes.
Bishop and the state government are having alliance with them to destroy the church in Goa.
It's a betrayal by the church. The churchmen are betraying the church. The churchmen don't know real Catholic doctrine because the Pope is not teaching real Catholic doctrine. He's no longer teaching this doctrine, the wrongness of modernism. He's teaching the rightness of modernism. He's teaching ecumenism. You saw that clip on television recently. Was it the Christian, the Buddhist, or the Hindu, the Jew, and the Muslim? And each of them was allowed to say, I believe in Jesus Christ, I believe in Muhammad, I believe in... And the Pope was promoting ecumenism. And then they all said, I believe in love, I believe in love, I believe... It was so silly, so sloppy and silly. But here the Pope, this is what the Pope himself was promoting. So the church, so the poor churchman, how can a bishop keep his head straight when his Pope is ordering him to talk nonsense, to believe in nonsense and to talk nonsense? The bishops have no chance. little chance of being able to continue telling the truth. This is the devil. The devil has got inside the church, he's destroying the church from inside, and therefore, of course, the politicians are losing their heads as well. I mean, they're going crazy as well. The whole world is going crazy because the Pope is going crazy. The Pope has allowed himself to be persuaded by the Modernists. It's very sad, it's very serious. It's difficult to believe. Catholics normally, the Pope is the Pope. Well, the Pope is the Pope, but he's caught a disease. There's a tremendous disease going all over the world, and the Pope has caught it. The disease that man is God. That's the heart of the disease. Man is not God. They're the Muslims. In the colony, when Goa was Portuguese, you'd never heard Muslim chanting. Never. Never, never, never. Because it's a false religion. It's not only a false religion, it's a very barbaric religion.
On the other hand, Your Excellency, our church bells have stopped ringing now.
The church bells have stopped ringing, you see.
Because they disturb.
Yeah, you see.
And there are people in Haveli say that they used to wake up with the church bell. Now they are hearing namaz.
Yeah. So, Muslim, you see, the devil is running the modern world. You've got it right now in your ears.
Haveli is so Catholic. People would have laughed at it 5 years ago if you had told anybody will hear like this in Haveli.
The higher they are, the harder they fall. The more Catholic Goa used to be, the more anti-Catholic it's going to be. It's terrible, be prepared.
Biggest parish.
Biggest
Be
parish in
prepared.
Asia.
Be prepared. And if a number of you Goans die martyrs, rejoice. You step into a fast lift to heaven. You've got maybe an unpleasant quarter of an hour, but you've got in a fast lift to heaven, and your example, your blood will be the rebuilding of the church. Maybe mine, I've got no idea. Martyrdom is a great gift. You heard the story of the class of little children that were all being taught by the schoolmistress about martyrdom, and how little children, if you're martyrs, you will all go to heaven. You will go immediately to heaven. Now, children, the end of her explanation, said, now, children, do you all want to be martyrs? All the hands went up except little Johnny. Johnny, don't you want to be a martyr? I want my sister to be a martyr. I want my sister to be a martyr. Does that answer your question? Yes and no? Yes. Yes? All right, okay. Any other question? So that's a good question, of course.
Now this new mass is coming.
The new mass?
Now this new mass is all over.
Yes.
So what do we do?
Go to the old mass. You look for the old mass, you find the old mass.
We don't get it.
It's rare. It is here. Father Valan visits Goa 3 times a month. And he's not the only priest that says the old mass. If you look, you will find. That's what our Lord says. Seek and you will find, knock and it will be opened unto you.
Let him give your number to us. Anybody want mass information, give your number to us. We'll send you messages.
And when you realize what the new mass is the worship of the modernist religion. You've got to stay away. You've got to stay away. When you realize. If you don't realize, maybe you should go because your conscience tells you should go. But you've been hearing now how bad the new religion is. And if you realize that the new mass corresponds to this, it's more democratic. It's more, hi folks, I'm Jim. Don't call me Father, call me Jim. We're going to have a fun time today. That's not the honour and glory of the true God. Not at all. And therefore you to stay away from the new mass. Sometimes it's done as decently as possible. Sometimes it can nourish people's faith, but as a general rule, it's destroying the church. It's turning Catholics into Protestants, into charismatics, without them even realizing it. So stay away from the new mass. And there is the old mass. You won't be able to go to mass so easily, but you want to stay away from the new mass. You'll be able to, if you look, you will find the old mass said here and there in Goa, and it will come back probably more. It has come back with the Society of Pius X. But now the Society of Pius X shows signs of catching the same disease. They want to go under the Romans. They want to go in with the Modernist Romans. It's insane. The disease is very dangerous. You've got to pray at least 5 missions a day regularly, and preferably 15, in order to keep your head above water. The waters are terrible today. The world has turned into a swirling, dangerous river. It's very easy to go under and go with the current and stop swimming against the current. Very easy today to lose the faith. Any other questions? Okay, well, let's say a prayer again as usual, and we'll be on our way.